Project Boro is now available as a podcast on your chosen podcast providers, so you can listen to every episode on the go. Simply go to the description of this video, click the link to the podcast provider of your choice, and subscribe or follow Project Boro, and you'll be able to find all episodes past, present and future right there for you to listen to on the go. Boro lose to Coventry by 3-1. At least we scored this time, I guess.
As the Uruguayan curls one in. Oh, Middlesbrough take the lead!
What is up, guys? Matthew here. Welcome back to another episode of Project Boro. A very happy new year to everybody who is watching or listening on the podcast providers, of course. And today I'm going to be talking about Boro's opening game of 2024, which followed a lot of Boro's recent games against Coventry City. We concede multiple goals, underperform in front of goal ourselves, and essentially Michael Carrick gets done by Mark Robins. And to be fair, I think the scoreline's a tad harsh on Boro, if I'm brutally honest. I think over the course of the game, it was very much a tale of two halves. And I think, brief summary of the game, I thought first half, Boro were absolutely fantastic. And, you know, it's the same narrative that we continue to bang on about. And I'm getting tired of mentioning it, but it is just the situation Boro are in. Multiple senior players injured. Again, we had players missing today. Of course, some have gone off on international duty. Boro had to put out a second string side, as they have done for weeks and weeks and weeks now. This is Boro's second 11, going up against Coventry's first 11. And given the fact that we were going up against a full-strength Coventry side, the first half performance from Boro was absolutely fantastic. We were absolutely excellent in that first half and didn't deserve to go in level. If anything, we deserved to go in front. But as the story is for Boro, as it has been for a while, we didn't take the chances when presented with them. Coventry took one of the very few we gave them, and we ended the first half level when we really had the opportunity to be ahead, and we should have, because it really came back to bite us on the arse. Because second half, this is where Boro simply are fighting with one arm behind their back at the moment. Coventry were able to change their shape, change their personnel, bring players off the bench, whereas Boro, having played the same 11 day in, day out, game in, game out now for the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, when we've had a game every 3 days, eventually, inevitably, the 11 that Boro had on the pitch just gradually ran out of steam, as you'd absolutely expect them to, because they've ran themselves into the ground over the past few weeks, because we've simply not had the squad depth to rotate any of them, and inevitably it got on top of Boro. And as the game went on, Boro couldn't match Coventry's intensity. Ours dropped off massively. As soon as we come out second half, you could absolutely tell that our performance levels had just dropped. Our energy levels had dropped. Our intensity had gone. The pace in which we were passing had gone. And the game just got away from us, essentially, in that second half. And, I mean, we'll look at the team later, but the bench had nothing, really, on there that you could do. We literally have a starting 11 and maybe 1 or 2 backup players at the moment. That's all we've got. So, yeah, this was an unfortunate case of a very decent, spirited, and you know what, a fantastic first half performance. And then a second half where we simply dropped off and couldn't maintain or match Coventry. And in complete credit to Mark Robins, he changed their shape second half. They had much more control of the game than what they did in the first. Nullified our threats, and essentially, if you think of the game as Boro are here, Coventry are there. Boro were up here, Coventry were a little bit behind, I'd say. Boro missed crucial opportunities. And as the second half went on, they made changes, went from strength to strength, and Boro just drifted away and simply had nothing left in the tank once the 90 minutes were up. But yeah, the Boro side going into this one, I mean, again, it was as makeshift, you know, as you could possibly get. You know, this Boro team is literally, it's just staying together with staples and glue at the moment. That's literally all that is holding this Boro team together. You know, we are another few injuries off of literally having to play the under-21s at this point. But we, you know, continued with mostly the same side, and at the back at least. Vandenberg obviously was in once again because Dijksteel was out injured, but no one else could rotate. Everyone else had to start, and when you looked at the Boro bench, I think we had 4 youngsters on there. You know, 4 youngsters who've never played a game for Boro before. A couple of them come on. Kavanagh come on second half. Gilbert come on, which he hasn't had the chance to very often. But yeah, the bench for Boro was just on a different planet to Coventry's, and not in a good way. You know, we just did not have the options off the bench, and it was a case of just holding on if we could. But we did have, you know, chances in the first half where we could have took the game away from Coventry. But you know, even if we'd have gone 2-1 up, even if we'd have took one of them chances and gone in at half-time leading, I still feel like just gradually they would have pegged us back anyway. But looking a little bit closer into the game, as I say, the first half from Boro was absolutely fantastic. I think given, again, the lack of options, the fact that the same 11 continued to play game in, game out, haven't had a chance to rest at all. The first half performance was brilliant from Boro. We were extremely creative. We had some fantastic opportunities. We were causing Coventry loads of problems. I mean, don't get me wrong, they still looked a threat coming the other way. They still had a few half chances, but Boro were the better side in the first half, and we had a host of chances before Coburn put us 1-0 up. Sam Greenwood had a fantastic chance. We had some great work down the left-hand side. Engel cut it back to Greenwood, who finds himself in the same position that he was in twice against Rotherham, and again he fails to put the ball in the back of the net. It was a fantastic save low down to the goalkeeper's left, and it is worth saying, as Boro have done many times this season, we come against another incredible goalkeeping performance. Greenwood had another shot later on which he tipped over the bar. Plenty of chances that we had. You know, Isaiah Jones went round the goalkeeper, put the ball across. It neither went in or was far back enough for for Josh Coburn to get himself on the end of it. So there were numerous opportunities in the first half that Boro simply couldn't take. The goalkeeper made another save. Engel got the ball on the edge of the area. It was heading into the top corner. Another one he tipped around the post. And, you know, you're just watching it thinking, I mean, I think arguably some of the opportunities, the Greenwood's first opportunity, you've got to say he should do better again there, but their goalkeeper kept it essentially at 1-1 or whatever the score happened to be at that time. He kept Coventry in the game at that point. Thankfully, Boro did take a chance in the first half, and it was a fantastic header by Josh Coburn. Some great work down the right-hand side from Boro. It was actually a very good cross from Isaiah Jones, and I mean, I don't see him put in many really good whipped crosses like this one. You know, Isaiah Jones is very good at low crosses from the byline, cutting it back into a decent position. This is one of the very few crosses I've seen from him from deep or deep-ish towards the touchline, and he really whipped it. And it was a brilliant ball in from Isaiah, and Josh Coburn, in fairness, with an absolutely brilliant header. You know, he caught it to perfection, put it right in the bottom corner, and Boro got themselves the lead. The lead we completely deserved by that point. Absolutely deserved. But unfortunately, in typical Boro fashion, it lasted a mere 3 minutes because Coventry had a corner up the other end. As I say, threatened in moments, but hadn't truly tested Tom Glover up until this point. And as is the way with Boro, one of the very few chances we give up to the opposition finds its way into the back of our net. Corner was whipped in. I can't recall if it come off a Boro header, Coventry header, or if it just went straight towards Tom Glover, but he made an outstanding save here. It was a fantastic reactionary save from Glover. Unfortunately, Engel's header was straight into an area where there wasn't a red shirt to be had, and Sakamoto was able to step onto the ball and pick his spot, essentially, and he put the ball into the corner, and we went in to half-time, 1 each, and as I say, it should have been 2-1 at the very least. You know, Boro could have had more, should have had more, should have went in ahead at the very least. But as I say, would the outcome have been any different? I don't know. We might have been pegged back and still gotten a point from the game, but the moment we kicked off in the second half, you could just tell that we just had nothing left in the tank. You know, we'd worked so hard off the ball in the first half. We were very, very good at winning the ball back off of Coventry, but they simply just had extra gears to go into, and Boro sadly were only drifting away as the second half went on. And you know what, there is an argument to say that our performance levels dropped off, and you can't just blame it all on fatigue and tiredness, and I think it's not fair to say that is absolutely the excuse. I think there were definitely times in the second half where, you know, some of the passing was off. We could have gotten in behind a few times, but the ball was just slightly under hit or undercooked. There was a couple of times where we lost out in a couple of crucial 50-50s, and again, you know, had moments where we could have been better in front of goal and could have created more if we'd have made the right decision. But essentially, as much as our quality dropped off, you could just tell we just ran out of energy. And in fairness to Coventry, not only was this wasn't just Boro, you know, causing their own downfall and handing the game to Coventry. Mark Robins, who is an absolutely fantastic coach, rated him as one of the best in the league for a long time now. He changed Coventry's shape. I think they went from a 4 at the back, predominantly in the first half, to a back 3. And yeah, whatever changes he made second half was extremely beneficial, because Boro didn't have the same level of control, didn't have the space to play the ball, didn't have the level of like I say, level of control or possession that we had in the first half. And the game, I wouldn't say got scrappy, but it certainly went into the hands of Coventry. And the game was played the way they wanted it to play, and it favoured their setup rather than Boro's. And essentially, the change in shape took the game away from Boro, and eventually we were just chasing shadows as the game went on. And fortunately, on the 58th minute, Coventry took the lead, and from this moment on, I think there was no real doubt as to where the game was going. And again, I feel sorry for Tom Glover in this situation. We lose a 50-50 on the right hand side. I'm not sure if the highlight will show exactly what happened. I mean, there was questions as to whether the ball had gone out at this point. I didn't quite see it. I couldn't quite see it from where I was sat, but if the ball did go out, then it's a shocking decision from the linesman who was on that side. But anyway, there was 2 Coventry players, 2 Boro players scrambling for the ball on the right hand side. We lost the 50-50 battle. The ball was played in early to, it might have been Ellis Sims, who caught the ball quite well first time. A very good save once again from Tom Glover. But unfortunately, second balls are absolutely crucial. And again, this might be down to Boro not being as sharp as Coventry, you know, being a little bit more fatigued physically, mentally, not quite reacting as quickly, lapse in concentration, whatever you want to call it. But he then got to the rebound ahead of Dale Fry. The ball comes across the face of goal, and again, you've got another 50-50 between Rav Vandenberg and Haji Wright, and again, the Boro player is the one who is second to it, and Haji Wright has the easiest tap-in you could dream of. So Boro lost a 50-50 battle on the right, then lost the rebound from the save, and then lost out to the final contact, which of course was the tap-in. And as I say, from that point on, I hoped we would find something, a moment from somewhere, but I just couldn't see how we were ever going to get on top of Coventry at this point. And I looked to our bench, and I just thought there is absolutely nothing on that bench that is going to change our fortunes. And the game was signed and sealed in Coventry's favour on the 69th minute. Ball was played down the left-hand side. I think it was Bidwell who just about kept it in. He slid, put the ball across goal, and Sakamoto was free at the back post, which is poor from Boro defensively, and he took his free header and put the ball in the back of the net, and that was all she wrote. Essentially, with a 10-15 minute period, the game was taken completely out of Boro's hands, and we brought on a couple of changes, but there was nothing on the bench, as I say, that inspired me, and sadly for Boro, that was it. We lost 3-1 to Coventry, and I think the scoreline was harsh on Boro, I think especially in the first half, but you know what, we had a spell. We had a spell in the first half where we were on top, we had the energy, we had the intensity, and we had Coventry on the ropes at times, but we didn't make the most of it. We didn't take the chances, we didn't get ahead, and we could have been 2-1 up, 3-1 up, then we've got something to hang on to, and even though Coventry will have come at us, we might have still took something from the game. But because we went in level, it was only going to go one way, and that unfortunately was 3 points for the Sky Blues. So, I'm going to say, looking at the Boro team, I have swapped to the Sky Sports website here just to see the Boro bench, because this was the Boro bench that we had. So obviously, as I mentioned, Tom Glover was in goal once again. Seny Dieng, unfortunately, is not going to be back, and we'll be heading off to AFCON very soon for Senegal. The back four was pretty much as it has been. Lucas Engel was back in to start. Matt Clark alongside Dale Fry. Rav had to come across to the right-hand side because Dijksteel went off, of course, against Huddersfield in the second half, and does seem to be another one to add to the long list of injuries. Housen and Barlaser started in the midfield as they have done for as long as I can remember, quite frankly, and the front four was as is, although Josh Coburn did start, and we did have a recognised striker up top. That might be because Silvera has gone off with Australia, or it might be because Josh was fit, but according to Carrick, he wasn't actually fully fit to play the full 90, and he just about got through it. So again, we didn't have a other alternative to play up top, really. But Greenwood was on the left, Rodgers in the 10, Isaiah Jones was back on the right again. It's the only real team we can field at this moment in time. And you look at the bench, I mean, in terms of senior players, Jamie Jones is a senior goalkeeper. Coulson is, I guess, a senior player, but we saw from the start of the season is not quite good enough for this level. And then you only have Alex Bangura, because Gilbert is a young player we've brought in who's not played at all this season. And you've got Kavanagh, you've got, Nkrumah, Aidan Bridge, Law McCabe, and Bryant Bolonga, who are all from the under-21s. So you've got a starting 11, one left back who's played a good enough number of minutes this season. And then you've got players who, let's be honest, in the nicest possible way, would not get anywhere near this Boro team if fully fit. So, yeah, that's just the state of affairs. There's bare bones, and then there's whatever the hell this is. And Carrick did say, thankfully, post-match, Hackney, Lath and Crooks are going to be training this week and should be back, and that hopefully this is as bad as it will get and will only go from strength to strength from here on in. So I pray to God that this is as bad as it gets. Anyway, as for the players running through, I mean, Glover, I think, was unfortunate. He's got quite a harsh rating on FootMob, but for me, I think he was unfortunate. You know, he made some fantastic saves for quite a few of the Coventry goals. He was just unfortunate that the rebounds went straight to a blue player, and they put away the second chance, or the third chance, that come their way. But other than that, I thought he was more than solid, and he's suffering from exactly the same as what Seny Dieng suffered from, and that is that he performs well, but still finds the ball in the back of his net a number of times, even though Boro don't give up that many clear-cut opportunities. The back four, again, I wouldn't say there was a poor performance between any of them. Again, it wasn't collective defensive issues, it was just moments which cost us, unfortunately. I wouldn't say anyone put in a bad performance. I wouldn't say they were particularly outstanding either. Exactly the same is said for the midfield. Very bright in the first half, very creative, winning the second balls, keeping us ticking. Again, as the game went on, second half, just ran out of steam, chasing shadows. In the end, the creative players up front, I think Sam Greenwood continued to have another game where once more, when he's not posing a goal contribution of some kind, the game seemingly just passes him by. And I did put a tweet out about this last week, and a lot of Boro fans were getting a little bit upset by it. But, you know, for all of the wonderful goal contributions, and I might have a screenshot that I can put on screen, you know, from Sunderland to Preston, I think he had 6 goal contributions in that time. But since the Leeds game, in his last 7 now, he's not really done anything. He scored once against Swansea. So, it could be just simply because he's played so much football and he has started every game. He just needs a rest. But Sam Greenwood was absent once again and didn't really have any effect on the game. Isaiah Jones, though, I thought was bright. You know, he took his man on. He did as good as he could be, I think, given the fact he's played so much recently, and did get a tremendous assist for Coburn's goal. And Morgan Rodgers, even though he hasn't got the best rating on FootMob, was our best player for me. I think Morgan Rodgers was the brightest spark in that Boro side from start to finish. You know, he would pick up the ball, sometimes on the edge of our own box, and he would carry us all the way up the pitch and win us a free kick or whatever. You know, he's such a good ball carrier, and is just so good in possession. He's always looking to go forward. He's always looking to create, take his man on. He's clearly getting more confident as the games go by, going from strength to strength. So, yeah, he's one of the very bright sparks for me, Morgan Rodgers. And out of all these players who you could say might drop out when our first 11 and our strongest players are back fit, Rodgers is probably one of the few, I would say, would actually stay in the team. if I'm honest. And Josh Coburn did well. He put a shift in, had a great chance, took his chance extremely well. It was a fantastic header from him. And yeah, put himself about, and I thought was a real good focal point up front. And I couldn't have asked more from him, really. But yeah, as for the subs, Bangura come on in the 74th minute. Gilbert and Kavanagh come on late on. You can't really expect much from Gilbert or Kavanagh, to be honest with you. I think Bangura, I found the substitution strange that Carrick brought him on for Engel. For me, I would have brought him on for Greenwood, and you could have had Bangura and Engel both attacking down the left-hand side. But for all we know, he might have been, just preserving Engel's fitness, and that might be why. He's just looking after his players, essentially. But yeah, that's the only change I would have made differently. I would have took Greenwood off for Bangura, because I wouldn't say taking a left-back off and bringing a left-back on was ever going to really pose Coventry any more problems. So I don't see what that substitution would have done, really. But as for the stats and momentum, as you can see, first half Boro very much were on top for the majority. We had a fantastic spell, after the first 15 minutes where we should have really got more than the one goal. Coventry reacted pretty well. But you see second half, a lot of the peaks that Boro had were few and far between. Coventry come out, were very, very good in that first 15-20 minutes of the second half. Boro just didn't get out the blocks, and by the time we did start to put any sort of pressure on them, the game was already gone. And as for the possession, Coventry had more. It's actually quite refreshing to see that despite all the chances we had, Coventry's XG was quite a bit higher. But even then, Boro still had 7 shots on target, only scored 1. Coventry had 8. So they were far more clinical. They had 3 big chances to our 2, and we both missed 1 big chance each. And it is another surprise, and this again might just go down to Boro's fatigue at this point. We actually had less accurate passes than them, which does not happen very often to this Boro side. So, as for the league table, Boro remain in exactly the same spot that they have been. They're hovering in mid-table, 4 points from the playoffs as it stands. I believe it might go more. It might grow if Hull were to beat Sheffield Wednesday, but oh dear me, as it stands, Hull have had a man sent off and are getting beat 2-0 by Sheffield Wednesday, so Hull aren't going to be pulling away from Boro anytime soon. But yeah, we're 4 points off the playoffs, and you know what? I'm happy with that. The fact that we've had a squad which has been absolutely destroyed by injuries for as long as I can remember, the fact that we are still in touch with the playoffs gives me hope that if we can start to get players back, we will only go from strength to strength. And as Carrick said, things will only get better from here on in. So we are still more than in touch with where we need to be. And we know fine well if we get bodies back, we will only improve. And we do have a huge 2-week gap now until the next league game. And I think the Boro team will look a lot different for our trip to Millwall on the 13th of January. And then we have then another week break between the Rotherham game at home. So, yeah, in terms of championship fixtures from here on in, we have a 2-week break to the next one, a week's break, then another week's break. All we have in between are cup games. So I'm hoping now, at least with the league campaign, the load on the boys will only lighten up, and we'll just start to see the balance tip back into our favour with less games and more Boro players available. But of course, we have some pretty big cup games in that period. We do have Aston Villa in a week's time in the FA Cup third round. If I'm brutally honest, this is a write-off for me. I'm not even going to recognise that this game is even happening, because we do not want to risk any more players for a game that, quite frankly, I couldn't care less about, because in 3 days' time afterwards, we have that ginormous League Cup semi-final first leg at home to Chelsea, and we simply have to, and my God, they have just as many injuries as we do, crikey, that's a positive. We simply have to just ensure we have the fittest possible team for that game. So, 3 days before Aston Villa, all the Boro fans I've spoken to, play the kids, Carrick, take a battering if we need to. I know a lot of fans will probably, FA Cup lovers might not want to think that, but for me, if we didn't have Chelsea, of course you do your best to try and beat Aston Villa, but they are in the title race, for crying out loud. They're having an incredible season. They'll probably destroy us anyway. So, yeah, rest as many players as you can, get them fully fit, get the injured players back, and just write off Villa for whatever it might be, whatever happens. If we find a result from somewhere, brilliant. If we lose, I couldn't give them monkeys, if I'm honest. And if we get battered, I couldn't give them monkeys either. It's all about Chelsea at home that Wednesday night. So that's what I am focusing on. It's what I'm hoping the Boro coaching staff are focusing on. And if we somehow find that we have a strong side back for that, then I cannot wait to see what a fully rested and hopefully much fitter and sharper Boro side can do in that home leg. Because if we can take something back to Stamford Bridge, that is going to be an exciting second leg tie later on in January. So I'm probably not going to come back for a Project Boro for the Villa game. I might mention it or reference it, but I will be back midweek in a week and a half's time to, review the Chelsea game, which is one of the biggest games Boro have had in years. Honestly, it's going to be packed. The atmosphere is going to be amazing. I hope we can give Chelsea a really, really good game, and if we can take anything back to Stamford Bridge, or at least keep the tie alive, then we've got a chance as far as I'm concerned. And this is a game for the ages, honestly. These games do not come around for the, teams like Boro. This is an annual thing for teams like Chelsea, major semi-finals. This is massive for us, so I cannot wait. And that is when I'll be back next. But that's it for today. We move on. I'm just glad this busy period of 4 games in 12 days or whatever is out the way. We've won 2, we've lost 2. We're still in touch with the playoffs, and we should have probably beaten Rotherham anyway. So for what we've done and the situation we've had and the players that have been missing, I commend the effort from the boys. And I just hope, as Carrick says, it will only get easier from here. But that's it for today, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, do hit the like button here on YouTube and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on any of the podcast providers, as always, do give us a like and a follow and a rating over there. That would be absolutely fantastic. Do leave me a comment below if you're a Boro fan, Coventry fan, or a neutral. And until next time, guys, I'll be back, as I say, in a week and a half's time for a review of the Chelsea and Villa games. And if there's any transfer movement in between now and then, which I hope there will be, I'll be covering that here on the channel too. But until then, a big thank you for watching. Do take care, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.